Hello everyone and welcome. My name is Vincent Schwenk and this is the video for July. Unfortunately, this is a little bit late because, well, there was so much to do recently and I'm sorry for that. But I will record this now and directly edit it and upload so you will get it as quick as possible and then you will have enough time to watch everything. Well, the last month was a bit more focused on the animation part, and this month I'd say I want to focus a bit more on the design part, and I made this stone texture video, and I'm already finished with that. And actually I recorded this as a first thing, and now I'm recording the video 1, and I usually planned something different, but I changed it so these two videos fit a bit better together. And we will have a look in that into a second. Just before we start there, I'll just have some new notes. And remember the last time I said the audio quality is so bad in here because like we just recently moved and I made some updates and it helped quite some. So I have curtains, which is quite nice, and a little carpet, which probably doesn't help much. And little Brezel is also sleeping here. I just probably need something on this wall so the audio won't reflect in here so much. And also, if you were wondering why this wall is blue, I would have painted it white, but I'm too lazy to do that again. But that's alright. So having here my little nice studio. Yeah, so this is the things which are going on my side, and I would say let's go into 3D. And I hope you are also having a good time these days, so let's have a look. So we are now in Cinema S24, and this is the scene where we will work, but of course I will start again in a new scene. And before I do that, I'll just easily copy myself my kind of stone object, because we are not gonna talk about that today. So this is my new scene, and I have my stage, and for now I will hide my back and my floor. And I don't need my two like dummy objects. And this is the stone where we will continue working on. And for now I will leave my camera, which is already like defaulted in here, and I will go close to the stone and then I press NB to see what we got there. So this is a low res stone, and I already UV unwrapped it in Ryzen, but this was already part in previous videos, so I'm not gonna do that again. Originally, I thought it would be cool to make some soft body simulation with some cages in there. I still have that on my list, so it will probably come soon. But in this tutorial, again, I said I want to focus on the object itself. And I would say one interesting thing to do is to give this more detail. So therefore, let's create a volume builder and a volume measure, and I'm putting both of them into my hierarchy of the heroes. And then I'm dragging my object into the builder and into the measure. And we need to have a smaller voxel size because everything is quite small. I have 0.5 centimeters now, and I think this is a good resolution for now. Then I will perhaps drag the stone out again and hide it again so I can directly show you what we'll want to do. And I want to create a random field because I want to cut out something from the stone. So I drag and drop that into the volume builder, and you can already see that something is created, and that's quite nice. And it's too big, definitely. So therefore we'll click into the random field, into the volume builder, and actually 10 centimeters is not too small. Not too big, it's too small. So we need something like 30, 30, 30. I roughly want to match the size of the stone, which is 18, 20, 23. So with 30, I'm pretty safe, but we can make it a bit smaller. And the smaller it is, the faster it is to calculate. So cutting off some pieces. Now we have some 3D noise kinda built with the volume builder, which is really nice. And then I want to drag the stone into there as well. And you can see the stone is not in the right position from this thing, so I'll press PSR, which is not called PSR again. Now it's reset transform. So we are all at 0 now. Everything is zeroed out, and that's good for working. Cool. Then in the volume builder, I'm clicking on the object, and I don't want a union, I want to intersect. That means pieces out of our stone are now getting cut out. And that's quite nice. And let's see that we reduce everything. So first of all, we need to go into the random field and into the remapping, and I want to change my inner offset. Damn it, wrong one. The inner offset. And you can see the higher I drag the number, the less we cut out of our stone. So now there are only little cuts. And also overall, my pieces are way too big. So I'm reducing the scale to 50%. So therefore I have only small cuts, and I accidentally made a 3 here. Let's go back to 100. Cool, now this looks kind of nice. And we can now perhaps play around and see which noise could fit the best. So therefore I'm going into the noise tab and I'm just pressing down to see what's happening. And I want to have a really small noise, like perhaps over could be something what I'm looking for. Well, first of all, also, it should be a bit smaller. I really want to cut out really small pieces. And then we need to drag the inner offset a bit more to the right. So we are not cutting off that many pieces. Something around 50% here, which is really interesting. So because some of the pieces feels like they're eaten out like stones in the water, which have a lot of erosion, something like that could happen. And I think also overall we need a smaller size of the voxels. So I'm reducing everything by 50%, going down to 0.25. And now we have again too much from the cutout. So I'm going back into the random field. And we need to go to the remap and increase our inner offset. Let's see, something like 60%, which is nice, but I also think we can even go smaller in our voxel size. Perhaps it's 0.2. You have to be a bit careful because everything gets quite slow the higher your voxel, the smaller your voxel size is. But I would say that is quite interesting. Perhaps we should try out some different noises to see if we get something more sharp. And therefore, let's try out pezzo. And for the pezzo, we need to remap this everything even more, so we have more pieces of our original stones left. And that was too much. And you can already also see it's getting slow. I'm clicking and nothing is happening. It could be the sweet spot. Also, if we convert the volume later on, it's a bit faster. And yeah, I think this is quite nice. It feels like erosion eroded, and we have some pieces which are not cut out and some interesting things there. So for us, I will copy this guy and I will leave you the file in there and I deactivate it, and I copied it. So this is the copy, and now I'm pressing C to convert this guy. So everything's a bit faster. And the other one I will put into an original folder. So if you want to play around with the things, or if you have issues with your volume measure, you can dig into this file and work around with this. So let's call this stone high for like high complexity or whatever we have. And yeah, the bottom also looks quite interesting. Then what I did, because I made this tutorial after the design one, I already had the texture finished and I used UVs for the materials. If the stone isn't transforming or moving, you can definitely use triplanar, which is kind of faster and easier, so you can avoid the UVs. But if you also want to have UVs, you can go and make an auto unwrapping in Ryzen. I will quickly show you which buttons you would have to press, because this takes quite a while because we have a lot of polygons. Yeah, this is loading, so we'll see. But anyway, with Octane and Redshift, you both have the triplanar option, and I would recommend you that for this type of mesh. Exactly, he is loading the mesh, and you can see we have a lot of polygons, and you would need to go for the seam tool, because we want to have islands. I want to cut out really many islands, because anyway the texture I'm using is very seamless, so you don't see the cuts. And I used like many numbers, like between high force and very high force, like 3 and 4, and then you have to just click auto select, auto cut and pack everything. But as I said, this takes a while, so I'm not going to do that and close it and not going to save it. Or again, use the triplanar version. Then what I did for our animation in the second one, I just made 2 keyframes for the rotation. So about that, it's also good to know that if you want something to rotate, you definitely need some frames. And I would say between 225 and 250 is like kind of the minimum. I wouldn't go faster because then you have so much jittering and motion blur that it's kind of pointless, the rotation. So then there is another thing which you have to keep in mind. We don't want to rotate from 0 to 360. I want to go 360 minus 1, 3, 5, 9. And then you set a keyframe, because if the rotation now jumps from the last frame to the first frame, we are not having 2 times the same frame, so the loop feels smooth. So you always have to keep that in mind. Just get rid of 1 frame. Did you see the end and start? It was a smooth transition, so nothing was happening there. And that's already the first and important thing about setting up what I rendered there. And I also want to render this guy again with retrofit with this holes, which is quite interesting. I just made a quick still for that, so I can easily go into my structure here and have a look at the one. And this is the rendered one with the cutouts, and you can see I added some more details, and that's what I also want to quickly talk about. Well, these are the other 2 ones from the second video before. And yeah, they're all quite interesting. Okay, so we are bringing this now into Substance Painter. And as I said in the beginning, you can use Triplanar. This would be really good to go if you wouldn't want to add any details, but for the Substance workflow, it's really good to have UVs. So it's because this guy doesn't have UVs. I will quickly go back into the version which I was working on, which is my test file, and I can select my volume measure object here, which is the same as we just did together here. Now I'll copy this guy in here as well, and so let's call them Stone High O2, and this guy has UVs. And let's get rid of the material, because material will come in the next one. And now we need to do the same. Select the guy, file, export, FBX, select selection only, then we have only this guy, and then let's call this guy Stone 02, exporting, nice. Then we are open Substance Painter, and you can see this is now all Adobe part, and you can also try a free 30-day trial like I'm doing here, because my Substance license somehow didn't migrate to the Adobe license. Yeah, I have to check this out, but this is my 30-day trial, so you can do this as well. Well, because we never used Substance before, I will try to go easy, and I'm planning to do a bit more about Substance and some more videos, and especially if it's Adobe now, so perhaps at one point it could be free. I don't know, we'll see. So this is the usual interface, and they also changed it a little bit because the update is really new. So I have my FBX file in here, and I can just drag and drop that into my Substance file. And then we need to assign a few things. So first of all, we are working on a metallic roughness PBR workflow. So you have to choose this template. Then I want to work in a 4K resolution. And for now, the rest you can leave on, or you untick auto unwrap because we already have UVs. Perhaps you can work with the UVs from Adobe. I didn't try that yet out, so you would have to play around this with yourself. Perhaps you can save the UV unwrapping step in the previous step, or in Ryzen. But for now, we will do this like that. And we have the stone here with all our UVs here. You can see the UVs on the right side. And I'm moving around with Alt and middle mouse. You can move all the stuff, and you can see my UV maps is really intense here, a lot of pieces. But because we can paint on it, it doesn't matter. So therefore, I'm going into this menu here to the alphas. And I just want to use some additional like typography or graphic design on my stone. You could cut that out later on. You can use your own objects, or you can really use whatever you want. So let's first of all start with some arrows. And we need to create one map. And it's kinda slow, not responding. Let's wait a bit. And it crashed. Nice, Adobe. Going back to Painter. Before Adobe had it, it was really stable. Let's see if they are fucking it up. So now we are back, and I selected the arrows, and on the right side is a little bit like Photoshop. And because we only want to have a black and white layer mask to be able to use that later on in Redshift, I will quickly give myself a fill layer here. And down here we can choose the colors, and it's gonna be black. And I will also make a mask on the thing. So go in there on the second thing and select add black mask. Then we click into the mask, and we can now paint with our arrow onto the object. And this was not correct. Now we have the arrows. So I will paint some arrows, and again with Alt and left mouse click, you can move around and adding some more like graphical detail. And middle mouse, you can move around, and on the left you can also choose other stuff. And of course you can again put your own stuff in there. So adding some dots perhaps here could be nice, and some text, or some this eye is kind of nice. Adding this here, and perhaps onto this side, and another big arrow here, and safety. We need safety, definitely. Put safety on the bottom of the stone, and we want it a bit bigger. And I'm right clicking here, so to get this menu to just have a bit of a bigger brush. And I would say this is already it. And this is like a super, super easy and basic introduction to Adobe Painter, but there will be more in the future if you would like to have that. Then as a last step, we just need to go to File and Export Textures. Then in the output material, you can choose Redshift as a default. It's in the middle here. And then we are going back to the settings because you can choose the materials. We don't want to export all the materials. I only want to export the base color because we will use the color map as a map, like a mask, sorry. Then export, and here's my mask. And then we can just, well, I should have exported this into the right directory. So into my Patreon folder for the animation, I'll just quickly paste it in here. And then we can close Substance Painter, and I don't need to change it because what I did is like really easy peasy and kind of poor. So I will go back to Cinema 4D and switch into my Redshift layout. And again, this also works with any other renderer, like, I don't know, Octane or whatever you use. And I will select a super basic material, because about this material on the left, we will talk in the next video. And for now, we'll keep it easy so you understand everything, especially if you're using another renderer. So here is my stone, just positioning a little bit so we see everything. And now I can select the material which we just created in Substance. And because it's not black and white, because my background was kind of grayish, we need a ramp to definitely create a material which is only black and white. And therefore I'll connect this guy to a ramp and press C to preview this thing. And I will just need to drag my white values to the left. And now we have a mask. And I don't want to go too detailed because this part usually goes in the second one. But I will very quickly create something. Like I created a material blender and I will blend like 2 different materials together and selecting my created mask, putting that layer 1 blend color. And let's say one material should be aluminum. And we will swap the mask, so black is white and black is black. And the first material quickly gets a bit darker so we can see the contrast better. And now you can see we have some aluminum details on our stones. And because we painted on them, the UVs are really correct and we placed them where we would have want to be, because otherwise to place stuff into this setup it would be really very tedious with Redshift to find where the right UV spot is. So if you need to create graphical things or whatever you want on top of this, that's the way to go. And as I said, you can also just use the trial for Substance. Yep, love this detail. And then let's continue to really create the whole material in the next video. So thank you very much for listening and I hope you learned something and see you soon. Bye bye.